if you wanted to transition to something else, I was going to say, let's zoom out a second and look at that we have a framework for 5 paths to advocacy.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that, because the whole thing is about activism. You mentioned people, going and protesting for things that they really don't understand. There's even another level of more useless people whose idea of activism is changing their profile picture on social media. But how does change actually happen? What are the steps to get there?
Well, I mean, that's what I'm giving examples here, right? Like, my point is the protests do it. Like, if you want to be out on the street, it's visually very compelling, although I personally find it annoying and not effective. That's my opinion, The social stuff, again, it's going to like junior social media people who are just confused. Like, if you're the Sephora social media manager and yesterday 5,000 Iranians are calling you Madar Gharbim, like insults in the scope of the rainbow, you're like, okay, I don't even know what's happening here. I sent an email to their CEO and the head of Canada, and then I also basically shared that template as a Google Doc that anybody can take. But I'm also going to go to their parent, LVMH, and be like, hey, you are like a champion of women's, positive body, whatever.
Yeah, positivity.
And like, you have one of your makeup people who is one of the brands you support, who is like mocking the death of Iranian women. So I'm like, I just want to know, is this something you support? Put it on them. Now, if they're morons and they're not, they're obviously accomplished executives, but if they're like, yeah, this is all good, so they now evaluate it internally. So my point is, in the community, and I don't want to be like the Edgar Bronfman Sr. at all, but I'm just saying, okay, this is a world that I'm well versed in. And I feel like this effort would work better if it was like, okay, like I said, Iranians have been kind of orphaned for 47 years because the Islamic Republic kind of took over and, has really been a disaster for the country. I mean, their currency sucks and everything. But I'm like, you do need to be strategic, right? Like, instead of emailing the social media person 1,000 times, one email like that to the executive, one email like that to the board or parent company puts it on them to act. And we are in an era where, like, boards do want to kind of show that they're doing the right thing. So that's the third one, which I think is most. Now, I know the fifth one is the nuclear one. What's the fourth one in that article?
Sorry, we were talking about
the 5 ways of activism.
The 5 ways. The fourth one is discovery.
Okay, so discovery. So then I don't even know what the fifth one is, but let me explain discovery. So in legal, I find discovery is actually the most effective way to get companies to like act correctly. So let's say Bill Gates and Microsoft, he got nailed because during the deposition, when you sit and the opposing lawyer, basically asking you questions, some email was kind of discovered that basically suggested that Microsoft was a monopoly and it was abusing its position in the marketplace. That email was like an accidental finding during discovery. It was not like what the prosecution and the government was seeking. It just came out randomly. So if you're RBC and you're like, we don't have any issues and, we don't know what you're talking about, buddy. We don't take any money from IRGC sources. Let's say, and there would have to be grounds. Let's say you're like, okay, but the Canadian government views the IRGC as a terrorist organization. So fair, maybe you're going to argue that like one of the IRGC senior guys, his nephew maybe is not really family. We can't go after him. But I would say that his son or his daughter, I would assume, and by the way, this is why he probably doesn't use his last name, like geniuses.
Yeah.
I would assume that the government would object to that, right? So in a court of law, and this is why I would like more Iranian Canadian lawyers, like I'm well-versed in law, but I'm not a lawyer, who then could procedurally get it right and be like, okay, there's this law. You are taking money from the IRGC. You're saying that it's not breaking a rule, but we're going to basically go to court to determine whether or not like the son is, kosher or not.
Mm-hmm.
In the discovery stage, when a lawyer then cross-examines like the VPs at RBC, and I'm not going to name anybody, right? Just to be very clear, I want to give them the opportunity to reply privately. In that discovery, when you're deposing them, deposition, you then also go like, send me all of the emails, all of the communication. I used to work at RBC. You know how many hoops now as a client I have to jump through to just get like a wire from a company in Poland, a company in, Mexico? It's not like, sure, it's called know your customer, right? So after 9/11, for terrorism and stuff like that, banks generally have a trail. They ask you. And I know you probably don't like this being, I know your views, so you're like,
because I'm more anti-establishment type person.
Yeah, no, but you're like, why does the bank ask you why I'm taking out money or where it's got? Okay, well, the fucking Al Qaeda was sending money to one another and like, preparing to fucking take down buildings. That's why.
Sure. Yeah.
So I know high probability that if an Iranian Canadian were to take the time to look at the law, look at the wording and the procedural, and they file a lawsuit, which RBC, and again, I don't care anymore. Like Quebecing, you proved yourself to me, like your value. So, but again, you don't think in 2 years if the expos, like they'll buy the suites, and you don't think,
yeah, of course,
like it's like, okay, the Citibank would have naming rights. It's like, don't worry about it. That's
when the hard part is over, then everybody.
The hard part is, the hard part I thought, and we're day 60 and it's done basically. But so my point is, in the discovery phase, they would have to, otherwise it's perjury. They would have to share every like email where like an employee has talked about, hey, this is money from the Larry Johnny's papa being sent to the son. Do we accept it? Well, the dad is seen here with Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader, the supreme loser. So if we just got a $300 million wire from some Iranian bank through Qatar or whatever, and it's going to his son, there is definitely thousands of emails, or not that, like hundreds across RBC. Like we're talking 50,000+ employees.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that, RBC now is super exposed, allegedly. Like if this happened, which I've worked there. I mean, as a client, as an employee, these are questions they ask. So then they're now kind of taking on a lot of risk, and they don't want risk, and their board is like, what the hell? We pay all this insurance. We're Canada's biggest this and biggest that. That is really effective. So if Iranians are really, really pissed off that the world is ignoring them, that everybody has some de facto leader to, or group. And that was the concept of, like, I called it the Human Dignity Project, but then afterwards I realized that name already exists. Dignity Project DP is probably not the best acronym. So then I was like, maybe the Dignity Initiative. But my point is, I'm going to just kind of like, it'll just be like a basic form or like website with just these links to templates and attempts. So discovery and deposition, the threat thereof, is a really, really big hammer, where then these big corporate giants would have to, act, react, respond. Because right now, I just see everybody's like insulting the Sephora people. And I'm like, I don't really think that's effective. Like,
no,
again,
I know, but if I could just push back on that a little bit, like, PR is important to brands and companies too. And if everybody starts shitting on a company because of a decision that they made or whatever, and it's not a good look, and then their, sales drop, I don't know, stock prices drop, everything goes wrong.
You're right. The pro-Palestinians are so proud that Starbucks is shutting down. First of all, it is so bizarre to target. I mean, I don't care about Starbucks. It's not like I'm Mr. Starbucks here. It is so bizarre to target Starbucks because they had just stores in Israel. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really get that connection, but let's set it aside. Starbucks is just shelving a lot of stores because they overextended with work from home. That the reality has changed. They're getting out of bad, crappy deals that they might have signed in their expansion era. Meanwhile, Palestinians are still dying. But okay, you're boycotting, and oh, they shut down 5 stores in Israel. Like, I'm like, okay, that doesn't seem. I always used to tell the Palestinians, I'm like, you're not going to like this. Look at Israel, what's done in 75 years. Israel has its flaws, but in 75 years, they built a country. You guys in 75 years are on your 18th intifada. And then meanwhile, the Arabs have sold you out, and the frustration bringing it back, Iran is paying the price, and Iranians are paying the price, and and they are fed up, and they should be fed up. And that's the thing. Like, I always told the Iranians who were opposed to the regime, I'm like, don't make fun of Palestinians, don't mock their injury, and even if you want to stand with like the Jewish people, I get that, I get the history, and frankly, the Jewish people are the only ones that are actually like standing up with Iranians, so it's I get it. But I was like, just say you're standing with Israelis. Don't say you stand with Israel. Not as a knock to Israel, but because it will be used against you, right? And that's what's happening. This was the Sephora thing where this American Palestinian makeup entrepreneur basically was, you know, mocking the suffering of Iranians. But I'm like, well, yeah, you guys for 2 years have been trashing the... And I criticize the Palestinians for the way they handle the conflict vis-a-vis Israel, but I've always sympathized with any human suffering. But yeah, when it comes to Iran, I'm 100% on the Iranian side, who are just fed up, and you know, they're chanting, you know, take that Palestinian flag and shove it up, you know, where the sun don't shine, right? So it's pretty clear what Iranians are saying. So, but my point, just to go back, is obviously protests count, but I'm like, if you're not doing, you know, the corporate governance jujitsu, and you're not understanding the tools that the law provides you, forget the lawsuit. You know, it's more just what happens during discovery. What's the fifth one?
The fifth one is execution and follow through. Yeah,
execution is just taking the time, and that's the thing. Like, I'm a nobody. It's a community. It's not like, I don't think it was like my letter to Emory or whatever. But I do think though that if Iranians were smart, which they are, and they really wanted results, it would just be like, okay, this happened, Sephora, you know, and then somebody kind of takes the lead. It's just, you know, the group could be with anything. You need to be more organized. Because right now it's really just a lot of Iranians by themselves, you know, obviously expressing sadness with what's happening back home, and then frustration.